activating the non-dual codex with primordial knowing, self-inquiry, and stillness. This writing is for every human who seeks the absolute light. May you without any doubt see that everything, including yourself, is already that absolute light. There are two parts for this book. The first part is aligning, and part 2 is activating. So let us start with the preface for this book. So this book is for anyone who is ready to keep an open mind and set aside some time to explore the mystery of being human with a neutral mind. This is not to escape life, but to meet it more honestly. And also for those who are open to discovering what lies beneath the surface of this physical world. And for those who sense that there is something deeper, something more real than what they have been taught to believe. You may not have all the answers, but something within you knows when it is time to pause and seek. When we stop running, we begin to notice, and the conscious journey towards self-realization can finally begin. That is, if it hasn't already started now. In my own journey for over a decade of exploring meditation, spiritual teaching, self-inquiry, and guiding others, I have seen that many people sincerely seek peace and clarity, but often they do not know which teachings to stick to or observe. Some just settle for that sense of comfort or a confidence, fearlessness which you gain in followership. This will limit the truth to those one or two forms whom you look up to. Often even spiritual knowledge can become confusing, and it can feel like it is too far removed from daily life and impractical. Through experience, I have realized that answers we seek are not in understanding the 1,000 words, 1,000 pages of a scripture. They are within us, but to see them clearly, we must know how our inner system works. Specifically, the mind is functioning, how it is functioning. That is where the structure of this book comes in. So it is designed to help you see without confusion how different layers of your experience work and how they relate to something deeper. It might look like deeper it's not a physical depth, of course, but it is more of silence. From the chattering mind to silence, there is some depth. This can be gained through observing. So the core idea of this book is what I call the non-dual codex. It is not a concept that you want to memorize, and it is not a technique to master. So it is simply a name for the clear and unified intelligence that is already present in every human being. Each of us have already access to this non-dual codex. So most people do not experience this clarity because they are caught up in mistaken identities, even spiritual and the religious ones. So we live our lives as if we are just our thoughts, roles, and memories. But deep down beyond these layers, there is something unchanging. There is an awareness of this changing. There is a presence. So this book helps you discover that this presence is not a personal thing. It is the same presence that gives rise to all life, animate or inanimate. To make this easier and explore, I have used a model based on 4 simple but powerful parts of human experience. So these 4 parts are your emotion, your intellect, your motivation, and the physical world which you know. Each of these plays a key role in shaping how we see life, how we feel, and how we behave. If we are emotionally overwhelmed or disconnected, it becomes difficult to think clearly. Our motivation is tied only to fear or rewards. So if this is the case, we feel lost. If our intellect is clouded by constant judgment, we cannot reflect truthfully, for it is biased. And if we are out of touch with the physical world, we become disconnected from the present moment. We are lost in our psychological plane. So each of these four nodes must be seen clearly and brought into harmony for deeper clarity to emerge. This harmony is not achieved through control or perfection. It comes through honest observation. As we observe our emotions without getting lost in them, they begin to move more freely. When we question our thoughts with sincerity, the intellect becomes a tool for seeing and not just arguing with others. When we ask what truly drives us, our motivation becomes more aligned with our values. And when we stay connected to the physical world through the body and senses, we stay grounded. Body becomes an instrument to awaken. It is about removing what hides what you already are. So this book brings together insights from both the ancient spiritual teachings and modern scientific understanding. It includes references from Advaita Vedanta, where the core of all existence is described as pure awareness or Brahman. It draws to the words of Jesus, who spoke his unity with the Father, not as a figure of worship but as a pointer to the oneness beyond form. It also includes ideas from Sufi mysticism and modern science, especially quantum physics, which now questions the idea of fixed, separate physical reality. All of these sources point toward the same truth. The world of appearance is not the full picture. Behind it is one unified field, that one presence which connects all of this manifest world. The intention of this book is not to make you adopt a specific belief. It is to help you discover a deeper reality, as I've said, that is already here behind your current experience, and also current experience being an extension of this reality. You do not need to change your religion, lifestyle, or the background, but you do need to become more sincere and open in your observation. You need to be willing to look at your experience without avoiding or decorating the current moment. This is not always comfortable, but it is always honest. And with this honesty, something begins to shift. You stop reacting from old patterns and start responding from the space of clarity and existential clarity. There is also a warning built into this journey, because spiritual knowledge, if not understood clearly, can become another identity. So people begin to feel special or superior because they think they know the truth. They have studied few scriptures and they know the truth. But the real insight is always humbling. It shows you that you are not separate from anyone or anything. It helps you see that the same intelligence behind galaxies is also behind your breath. There is no need to pretend or perform every moment. The more honest you are, the more peaceful you become. This is not because you have achieved something, but because you have stopped pretending to be someone whom you're trying to or force yourself in your daily living. So this book is not here to give you something new. It is here to remind you of what has always been within you. It will guide you to observe your emotions, question your beliefs, understand your motivations, and stay connected to the real world around you. Now, these simple steps, when done with sincerity, lead to deeper seeing, and from that seeing, your relationship with life begins to change. Not because the world changes, the world remains exactly as it is outside, but because the way you see it is no longer filtered by confusion or simply the ignorance of your identity. Whether you are new to meditation, someone deeply involved in spiritual practice, or simply just curious to see what is real. So this book is written for you. It does not expect anything from you except your presence. You're not here to become enlightened as a special achievement. You are here to wake up to what is already true, and in that waking up, life becomes simpler, more peaceful, more connected, not just for you, but for those around you as well. Now, here are some key terms that have been used in this book, and I have contextualized for this book specifically and what it means. Activation, the process of awakening the natural intelligence within by aligning the emotional, intellectual, motivational, and physical layers of our experience. Advaita, a Sanskrit term meaning not two, and it points to understanding that all separation is illusory and reality is one unified presence. Alignment, the inner coherence of thought, feeling, and action that allows the non dual codex to reveal itself effortlessly. So, the first part of this book is aligning our mind specifically to make it available for revealing or activating the non dual codex in part 2. Awaken identity, a sense of self that is not based on thoughts or roles but on the pure presence of the awareness itself. So, awareness, that the ever present screen in the background, the formless field in which all experience occur. It is not something we do but what we are. We are already the awareness. Being, the silent foundational presence that exists before thought or identity. This is the pure existence itself with its million forms. So there is a manifest aspect. Awareness is extending itself in this universe to being. The body, this is not just a mere biological structure but a living gateway to awareness when experienced without any mental resistance or beliefs, imagined ideas and beliefs. Boundaries, so we have the perceptual, physical boundaries, or the conceptual mind that dissolve when reality is seen as unified field of presence. And now I have contextualized because the goal is to dissolve this boundaries, which is just an idea. The causal chain, a sequence of perceived cause and effect. When traced deeply, it leads not to just the first event but to timeless awareness. Clarity, a clarity of perceptual and emotional transparency that allows the truth to be seen without distortion. Codex, an inner symbolic system or structure that guides the movement from limited identity to awakened presence. A codex in this case is already there, it is accessed in stillness. Conditioned identity, that is basically the ego, a learned sense of self built from memory, roles, and social beliefs, often veiling our deeper nature. Conscious evolution, the natural unfolding of life from the egoic confusion to a clarity through sincere self-awareness and inner inquiry. Contemplation, a quiet, deep form of inner seeing that blends intuition, observation, and silence to reveal the truth beyond just thoughts. A crystal node, this is one of the nodes in the tetrahedral model, which we will discuss further. So our intellect, when it is clear and it is free of ego, so it functions as a mirror for the truth to be seen rather than a judge or just an analyzer. And duality, so that is the apparent separation we see between the subject and object, self and the other. So this is a necessary function for survival and to experience, but not the ultimate truth. Egoic state, a mode of being where the identity is derived from the memory, fear, or a self-image, resulting in mental and emotional contraction, creating divide and fear. A field of presence, the silent space of awareness in which all phenomenon arises. It is not a container but the very nature of our being. Flame core, the inner yearning. So this is another node in the model. The inner yearning to, or the motivation for truth, and the unity. So the highest desire we have within each of us. So that is the flame core. It is the soul's drive to return to its source. Formless. This is a tricky one. We cannot imagine formless. So here I would define this: that which has no fixed identity or shape, often pointing to pure consciousness or the ground of all being. It is a realization, it is an intuition, whatever you want to call it, but do not try to imagine this, because you can only imagine those which has form. Harmonic emotion is another node. So this is nothing but the emotion that flows in alignment with this pure awareness. This is not resisting or holding on to your memories, and it is just allowing the clarity and peace to remain, peace being that core emotion which is in the center of our being. The harmonic field is the one which is rooted in presence, and the inner resistance is absent, and the self remains open and clear, and it gives that space for the harmonic emotions to flow. The I am, here I am very importantly is not a personal I am. This I am is that core sense of being which is the same for all of us, that exists before our thoughts, beliefs, or the roles we take. This I am is the same in all. So it is the seed of both illusion and realization. Illusion, when you strongly attach I am with something, and it is the source of realization when you simply see I am is all there is, the foundation, and that is the realization, self-realization, which we are going to discuss in this book. Infinite regression. So a pattern of inquiry that keeps tracing back causes, the causal chain which we said, you regress back the cause until the thoughts itself dissolve and only the awareness remains. The inner map is nothing but a framework within this book that helps to navigate the territory of awakening through aligned awareness. So we have different components in our being which we are aware of. So we make use of a simple framework, not too rigid, but good enough to start the journey of self-realization or simply activating the non-dual codex. So the intelligence of how. So this is the aspect of our intellect that explores the unfolding of experience and eventually leading back to that timeless source of how these things came into place, came into being. And intelligence of what? In the same investigative mode of the intellect that seeks to define and understand form, which ultimately turns inward. What is this? It is the same what in who you are and in the manifest world, the physical world outside, so to speak. And intelligence of who is the inquiry into the source of the inquirer itself, which reveals that the true self is awareness and not the seeker. Intellect is, of course, it is one of the four key nodes, the tetrahedral model represented by the crystal node. When purified, it becomes a sharp, clear tool for truth. Language is a pointer when I say that words and concepts used not as truth themselves but guide the attention towards the direct experience. The language is pointing to the experience which the awareness has. The matter matrix is simply the perceived physical world, and when clearly seen, it becomes the mirror of consciousness rather than that wall of separation where the divisions is seen. The same space is seen as one thing manifesting in many forms. Meditation is not merely a technique but a way of being in which every activity becomes a doorway to presence. And memory-based emotions, so those feelings which are generated from past events, the emotions that are controlled by our stories rather than from the reality of present moment. And metacognition or metacognitive human, that is, we humans are metacognitive, a human who is aware not only of their experience but also of the awareness behind the experience. Or we can simply say that we know we are here, we know that we are aware. As Rupert Spira says, being aware of being aware. And the muddied crystal is the same intellect when it is clouded by our emotion, belief, or past impressions. It blocks our ability to reflect the reality more clearly. And the mystery of being is that the deep, wordless knowing that there is more to life than just what can be explained. Call to explore what is real. Real as in that which is independent of our beliefs and our limited way of understanding the world through duality. Non-dual awareness is the direct perception of unity where separation between self and the other, or inner and outer, these things they dissolve naturally when this awareness is seen. Codex itself, the non-dual codex, is just that inner structure or intelligence within each of us that guides us to awaken. And this is not learned externally. Of course, it can be used to point, that is what I'm doing in this book, but it cannot be learned. It can only be uncovered through alignment of all the notes which I have mentioned. So if you align it as it is supposed to be naturally, there is no way you can miss the activation of this non-dual codex. And the observing mind is part of consciousness that can watch thoughts and emotions without identification, which leads to a deeper presence. Perceptual layer, the filters of memory, judgment, and expectation through which reality is usually seen until they are seen through. So once you recognize the nature of your memory and how your intellect is judging and the expectations the ego causes, we can align the notes much more easily once we see through these layers. Pointer, as I've said, it is a sound form, language, whatever, a tool, a phrase, an experience that leads the mind back to silence and awareness. Presents the felt reality of now experienced as a quiet, grounded aliveness beyond time or thought. And presence indicator is the emotional state. We make use of our emotions to understand what is the current state of our presence. So a pleasant emotion can reflect a better state of being. So the emotional state reflecting one's level of presence. Peaceful emotion points to a deeper alignment. And the next one is psychological atmosphere, the emotional and mental mood created by repeated thoughts which can obscure presence and clarity. Purification is the clearing away of false identities, beliefs, and reactivity to allow one's true nature to shine through. Recognition, the moment we just recognize, the moment of inner realization, when truth is seen directly. You are no more believing it. You might have understood it to believe, but it is no more belief for you. You have recognized it, you have seen directly through presence. Resonance, the inner feeling of alignment when something is true at a deep level, often felt emotionally or intuitively. Role identity, so the idea of self based on societal or relational positions, which can block direct experience of presence. Sacred architecture, that is, it is symbolic structure of the Codex model, especially the tetrahedral model used in this book, which represents an interplay of all nodes. Self-inquiry is the practice of turning our attention inward with questions like, who am I? To dissolve the false identity and rest in awareness. The self-realization field is this ever-present space of conscious being from which All clarity arises when our egoic filters they dissolve. So this field of self-realization is always present. When our ego dissolves more and more, you tend to expand towards this field of self-realization. All the four external nodes they tend to move towards this field of self-realization. Sensory dependence, the tendency to seek emotional balance through physical and sensory stimulation rather than through awareness. So, depending on the physical senses to satisfy our present moment, to be happy in this moment. So, now that is a dependency on it. So, we are no more trying to make use of the sensory experiences to feed this void, rather than we make use of the realization of awareness, which leads to us seeing that unifying aspect of our being, where we experience every interaction quite intimately and it is satisfying. We don't limit our happiness, as I say, to those specific activities in our routine, or like eating a pizza, going to movies. It could be one of events you plan a week or a month. We enjoy it, but we are no more dependent on it. Sensory pleasure talks about the same, and the separation illusion is a result of a false sense of identity. So we see everything, others, the world, or consciousness. There is a false sense of separation between these, and a veil is created by mind and belief. Silent intelligence is that simple, the knowing presence that is beyond our thought, always here and guiding the unfolding of awakening from within. Stillness is that deep inner quiet that is not the absence of activity, but it is a background in which all the activities occur without disturbance. Tetrahedral model we will discuss further, but it is that symbolic framework which I have framed. It's quite simple, where we make use of the four aspects of human experience: emotion, intellect, motivation we have every day, and the physical world. So all directly influenced by the identity in the center. The I am is in the center, and that affects all the four nodes. Thought loop is that repetitive mental pattern that keep attention stuck in egoic stories and prevent the presence. Transparent intellect is when the mind it reflects awareness without judgment or grasping, or a self-reference to memories or ideas. Uncaused, or simply the causeless happiness is the context. So that which exists without being created, often used to describe pure awareness, the source of all. So there is no cause for this pure awareness. For a manifest world, one might debate what is the cause of the manifest world, but it itself, the pure awareness, the infinity, the Brahman, is uncaused. It is timeless, it's unborn. At the 0 point, when we translate it to the spiritual context, it is that fundamental stillness or source from which all reality emerges. It is not just one location, but it is just a state of silent being spread out throughout the cosmos in infinity. So we will start the part 1 in next video, which is aligning our unconscious search and make it a conscious activity. Thank you for watching this video. We will get back in the next one. Until then, stay present, stay awake. It's very simple.